There we go. Now my audio is working. Sweet. What's up, everyone? My name is Deltlead, and today we're back for another live stream playing Juno New Origins. We're going to be playing in my live stream career playthrough that I have been doing for a while, but the last time I actually live streamed and played this was 6 months ago, so we've been away from it for quite a bit. So let's go back and look at what our jobs are right now. We've got 2 rescue missions, a mission to bring supplies up to the mountain camp, and a mission to crash into the planet Brigo. That one's not going to be very hard. Brigo's really easy to get to, so we can definitely do that for relatively cheap. We'll start with that one. We might do those rescue missions or the supply mission next, because those are also relatively easy, although they are a little time-consuming. So this is the rocket we used in our last mission. It's an orbital capable rocket, but we're going to do something a little simpler. We don't need anything crazy for this mission. This is a rocket I used before. We don't need the payload on it, but we can repurpose this rocket and use it. So I think it should have enough Delta V. Let's look at its performance real quick. Total Delta V 6.9 seems plenty. Hello, Sleep Token Enjoyer. Welcome to the live stream. 6.9 kilometers per second seems plenty. Initial starting thrust weight ratio seems fine. I think this should do. So we'll just launch this as is. We just need to impact the planet or the moon. So I'm going to throw a really basic probe or satellite on top of this bad boy. Let's drop this guy down. Does not need to be very big. Does not need to have a lot of fuel. Does not need to have a lot of capabilities. So it'll just be a small fuel tank. 0.6 should be fine. We'll throw the gnome engine on it. Oh, shoot. Hold on. A little bigger. Auto resides off. There we go. I'm not going to go for anything fancy with this either. Just keep it real basic. Where are we going? We're doing a mission in the career mode to impact Brigo. We just need to get something to hit the planet. Let's see. There we go. Command module. Give it some batteries. Give it some gyros. Oh, too much. There we go. So 4,870 for that, 814 for the fuel and the fuel tank, and 30,000 for the engine. Let's tuck the engine up a little bit. There we go. And we'll need a power source in the form of solar panels. So we'll put these right there. 2 should be plenty. And for good measure, we'll add a camera so we can watch it coming in. Okay, that should be all I need. I really don't need a ton to make this work. And that should be plenty of Delta V for the launch. We're going from the alley launch pad because it's closer to the equator than the village launch pad. Brigo is on orbits around the equator, so we want to be closer to the equator. The Drew Space Center is on the equator. This is not perfect, but it should be close enough. Let's move that out of the way. Okay, let's go map real quick. So that's Brigo right there. We've actually already orbited it, which is harder than impacting it. So it's kind of funny that the impact mission came after. We got that selected as our target. Let's go back to our ship. So first thing is first, we'll get into orbit. Once we're in orbit, then we will go from there. Light our engines. Why no liftoff? That's weird. Hold on. Okay. Let's undo and exit. We've had a little bit of a problem on the launch pad. Not sure why. So let's check our staging. Oh, yeah. That would be a problem. Okay. This stage should be at very back. This engine should go up there. Okay, so those all activate, then that, then that, then that, then that. All right. Staging is fixed. Craft looks ready to launch. Okay, slightly embarrassing, but we can recover from that. Same setup. Everything is exactly the same. We've just fixed the staging. Now we lift off. So I'm going to push over to the east. I'm going to roll the rocket to get the boosters to the sides. Go prograde, and we'll throttle down. All right, we are in the air. Solid fuel is running down here. But as the craft gets lighter, we're accelerating faster. So now our acceleration is... Where is it? 7 meters per second and climbing. Doing Mach 1.2. We've passed max Q. Throttle up just a little bit. Okay, now that we're kind of on a stable trajectory here. Separate our solid rocket boosters. Those are away. Just flying on liquid fuel. Let's get ourselves into orbit. So I'm going to start by pushing our orbit. Whoop. See if I can get it right. There we go. Alright, we are orbital. Let the guidance system stabilize us. There we are. Go ahead and activate the fairing early. Drop that extra weight. Have I visited Clad yet? The new planet they added? No, I haven't. I have not played this game in a bit. So I've not seen a lot of the stuff they added in the new updates. Alright, max thrust on this guy. And we're going to point prograde. So pitch up slightly. And then we'll let time accelerate forward a little bit. Just because this takes a long time to get this burn completed on this high efficiency engine. And I'm throttling down because I don't want to raise my apoapsis too much. We're doing this kind of low thrust cruise. Whoa, into orbit. And left time acceleration on when I was maneuvering, which means I spun out of control for a second. Stop the burn. In space, we'll just do a orbital insertion burn at apoapsis right here. So at our highest point, light the engine full thrust, raises our lowest point of our orbit up, circularizes the orbit. We're in orbit. Great. Brigo is right here. So let's add a planned burn here. Push it out. And then we're just going to adjust the timing of it until we're right at it. Right about there. It's a little past. So we're going to need to do a plane change maneuver here. Other way. Oh, never mind. I'm not going to be able to do a plane change there at all. Let's 0 that. I'm at the wrong spot to do that. Okay, that'll do for our first burn. Let's lock it in. Set the engines to automatically burn on time. Fast forward to it, 1.27 kilometers per second. I've got 1.6 in the stage. So we'll have burned this stage out, and then we will just have our final stage to make any adjustments, and a little bit of fuel left in the stage. Time warp through the burn. It's got its own theme music, and it's haunting. Interesting. I will have to check it out, maybe in a future live stream. All right, that burn is complete. We have 5% fuel remaining in this stage. 330 meters per second total change in velocity. And what we need to do is we need to come down to like here. And pull our orbit up like this. Yep. Little glitch there. Wait, now, hold on. Oh, I'm clicking on the wrong spot. I'm silly. Here we go. This is our orbit. I clicked on the wrong orbit. I clicked on the orbit we would be on after encounter. I need to click on the one that we are currently on, which is the blue one here. So the blue is our current orbit. This will be after the burn and after the encounters. If I push up like that, there we go. We're real close to the planet. And that is our impact right there. We'll lock it in. Warp to it. Should be a small adjustment now. Everything from this point on should be small adjustments. Small adjustments. Okay. And we have our collision set up. Should be good to go. We'll separate our impactor. Take control of it. I'm just going to separate from the main body. I'm going to lock our heading on target. So there's Brigo. And now as we time accelerate, the camera is going to track Brigo during the approach. All the way in. We are in Brigo's sphere of influence. On our way to impact. This should be a pretty easy mission to accomplish. 100, and it's automatically going to slow down time as we approach too. So we are at 10 times time acceleration. Current altitude is 39,000, 25,000 meters, and closing on the surface. 20,000 meters, just regular time acceleration now. I guess we can do physics time acceleration. There we go. All right, 5,000, 4, 3, 2, slow down time. 1, boom. Oh, I needed to bring an impactor. Oh, hey guys. I'm a bit silly. We need to bring the impactor probe. It's not just dropping any probe. We need to bring the impactor. I bet the impactor's super heavy too, isn't it? I bet it is. All right, scrap this whole thing. Oh, I'm glad you enjoyed the tutorials. Yeah, I made them to be helpful to new players. So, sounds like they did their job. 1.4 tons. Of course it's 1.4 tons. All right. So it's super heavy. That's the impactor. What can we do to make this perform better? More rockets, I say. That's usually the answer. The answer is usually add more rockets. So we'll add more rockets. We can also make this fuel tank bigger, because we've got more thrust on launch. We can increase the size of our main fuel tank. I think by quite a bit more, actually. Take it all the way up to 10. What does that give us? 5.3 kilometers per second. Still not a ton. Make this upper stage fuel tank a little bigger. Small gas generator engine. 0.84 is good enough for thrust to weight ratio for this. Let's hold on real quick. I want to give these some textures while we're here. There we go. Looks a little better. Let's do 4 and 4. 4 and 4. Sweet. Okay. 5.2 kilometers per second total delta V. Is that going to be enough? That's pushing it. Now, when in doubt, add more boosters. So it's the cheap and dirty way to do it. This rocket still only costs 2.1 million. So it's not expensive to add more boosters. And we could increase the size of these engines a little bit. Just a little bit. To give us 3.5 kilometers, 3.5 thrust to weight ratio. I can make this fuel tank even longer. Let's push it all the way out to 12 meters. That gives us another 400 kilometers per second. That might be enough. That might be enough if we're really good with our burns. But we need to be really good with our burns to make this work. I could also make the thrusters, these boosters, a little longer too. Why don't we take this main one out to, yeah, just over 8. This is 5.88. And it only brings up our cost by another 400,000. Let's give it a try. Check our staging. The staging should all be the same. But I need to make sure that the satellite impactor is up there. Looks good. All right, we'll take it to the launch pad. See if the simple solution of adding more rocket to my rocket fixes the problem. So we got a lot of boosters now. We got the impactor. Should be good to go. Hello, welcome to the live stream, my friend. Lock our heading. Launch our rocket. Immediately throttle down because the boosters are going to be doing most of the lifting until we get to the point where we're ready to separate from them. Go down to like half throttle. Thrust weight ratio is 2.3. We'll keep it around there. That's fine. So the solid rocket motors are on a decelerating fuel grain. Basically, as the solid rocket motor burns, the thrust it puts out goes down, so it consumes fuel at a slower rate. So the thrust weight ratio is going down because my thrust is going down, but my weight is also going down. And now that we're almost empty on my solid rocket motors, my liquid motor is now doing all the lifting, which is what we want to see. We'll pitch over a little bit more, bring us down to 60. Solid rocket motors are expended. I'm no longer accelerating, so I need to throttle up on my liquid rocket motor, but that's fine. Because we didn't burn a lot of fuel with that initially, we still have most of the fuel in that first stage, over 60%. So we're going to pitch down a little bit. good. This is where I'll bring the time acceleration back into play. Now that we're up, I'm going to throttle down to conserve fuel, keep my thrust weight ratio about 1.4. That's main engine cutoffs, stage separation. Also deploy the fairing. We're going to use maximum thrust on this stage. Hopefully I can keep it up. And it looks like I can. I'm looking at my timed apoapsis here. That's my biggest indication that I'm going to fall back to Earth. If I reach apoapsis too early and I haven't accelerated enough, then I'm going to fall back to the planet. So I want to stretch that out as much as I can. Okay. We're now almost at orbital velocity. Still suborbital, but we're very close to orbital velocity. So I'm going to wait until I'm at apoapsis to finish my burn. We're a little bit past apoapsis, but that's okay because we have achieved orbit. Awesome. So we're at a 100-kilometer orbit. Let's find Brigo. Select it as a target. I have 1.6 kilometers per second of delta V to make this work. That should be enough. That should be exactly enough. So let's do our burn. Actually, I guess one thing we could do. How quickly will I go through battery? Am I going through battery at all? No, I'm not losing any electric charge. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to actually wait a little bit. Oh, we are slowly losing electric charge, but we've got enough batteries we can sit up here and wait for a little bit. I'm going to wait for a little bit. Because right now, if I were to launch over this way to Brigo, where it is right now, and intercepted it here, my orbit is angled down, so I would actually end up below... Oh, you guys can't see my mouse. Hold on one second. Capture cursor. There we go. You can see my mouse now. So I would end up below Brigo down here, and it would cost me more fuel to adjust my orbit to get from down here to flat. But if I wait to where my orbit crosses right here, then I'm going to come out and hit him here. That's my plan. And we should be about there. So let's add our burn. Push it out. And you can tell how close you get to a celestial body by how much more energy you get in that gravity assist. The closer you drop into its gravity well, you can see I'm getting real close here. And that was impact right there. So I want to like really solidly hit him. That should do it. So let's enable the auto burn, warp to it. All right, thrusters are lit. We are accelerating. And we'll just use time acceleration to get through this. Same as before, but now with a heavier payload. But I've been a little bit smarter with my burn. And I may need... Nope. Looks like we're on track, so I don't even need to make an adjustment. So now it's just a matter of letting time do its thing. I think we'll hit him on the dark side of the planet, but that's fine for the mission. Boop, inside Brigo's sphere of influence. There's the sun right there. And we are coming in on Brigo now. Time warp to the surface. Should be relatively quick to hit him. Here we go. And we are completely in the eclipse of the planet. Boom. No! I have to deploy the impactor too? Oh my goodness. Alright, hold on. Oh, man. I have to deploy the impactor. Okay, we're going to do exactly what I just did. Again, I'm just going to do this really quickly. Try not to make any mistakes. Also, we're going to launch a little bit more parallel to the ground. Or not parallel to the ground. We're going to take a sharper turn here initially while I have the thrust. Try and save a little bit of fuel. Sit right about there. Use physics time acceleration to make this a little quicker. There we go. Okay, upper stage is deployed. Get right on the equator. Time warp to apoapsis, same. Everything's the same. Just trying to do this quicker to save time because it was a silly mistake of mine. I didn't actually deploy the impactor. Okay, that's in orbit. That's good enough. How much delta V do I have to work with? 1.82. That's actually 200 meters per second more efficient than the last launch. Just trying to go for speed here. That's good. Select. And then same thing. We're going to wait until Brie goes past its own apoapsis. Right about there. Add our own burn here. Make our adjustments. Wrong way. Let's turn down the sensitivity on this. There we go. That's our spot right there. 1.2, about the same transfer energy required between these orbits. Skip ahead to the burn. Engines are going. We do overshoot this time, so I need to make a correction burn. Let's just put a correction burn right there. It seems like we just came up a little short. Lock it in. This will be a very quick burn, only 10, 11 meters per second change in velocity. Yep, and that looks good. Let's warp to entering the sphere of influence. And then, okay. Oh, okay. This is more complicated. Gee, Williker. All right, let's go retrograde. Surface velocity. How much delta V do I have? 524 meters per second. Can I make that happen with this rocket? This is more complicated. I see why this was harder. Let's go orbit. Let's go radial outwards. Here's my thought. Let's do a glancing blow, basically. And then the last possible second we fire the rockets. How much burn time do I actually have in this thing? 24 seconds. So 24 seconds before impact, I need to burn full thrust and try and kill as much velocity as I can. I have 520 meters per second, and I'm going 646. Okay, this is not going to work, unfortunately. I don't have the Delta V for it. I'll try. Since we got this far, we might as well try. But here's what's going to happen. Yeah, we're going 900 meters per second. So I need another 1,000 meters per second, roughly, of fuel just to kill all my excess velocity here and drop the impactor. And then it looks like I need to deploy the impactor like 3 kilometers above the surface. So I basically almost need to land, is the trick. That's why this is hard. Yeah, okay. Back to the drawing board altogether, because that didn't work. So we need to redesign our final stage here. Okay. We make the first stage taller. We give it more fuel. And that gets us 6 kilometers per second Delta V. The problem is it's just so stinking heavy. And I don't have more advanced rockets. Like, the gas generator is my most advanced rocket. Can I change the bell at all? Bravo. Okay, so I can make it a little bit more fuel efficient. Let's take it down to 70. That squeezes out another 100 just by bringing the throat diameter down. This one is already pretty much fully vacuum optimized. We can make it slightly more vacuum optimized, but we're approaching diminishing returns here. .2 thrust weight ratio is about as low as I want to take that. So then the other option is we can increase the amount of fuel that these boosters are carrying. I do want to keep them on the ramp down because I think that is like the way to go, but we can make them just a little beefier, a little less beefy. Beefier, 3.5. Just ever so slightly thicker. So 6.43 kilometers per second. It gets us closer. Does not get us all the way there, though. I could really try to optimize my launch as well. What about fairing? Make the fairing smaller, reduce the mass of the fairing, reduce the mass of the payload. This is the command disk. It's got way more battery than I need, so I could make this lighter by taking the battery volume down. We're now in like the true nitty-gritty optimization stage, which is tricky. This is the hard part, is making this work. What if we make our first stage wider? So I'm going to pull the rockets off. Let's pull the lettering off here. What if we just make this... go for a 2-meter radius? Then add those rockets on. 7 kilometers per second. Initial thrust to weight ratio 2.2. That might be enough. That might be enough, gang. All right, do we want to try it? It looks ugly. I don't like how it looks anymore, but who cares? If it works, it works. Let's get it in the air and see if it works. All right, basically the same launch. I'm not going to time accelerate because I want to make this more efficient. I am going to use that shallower launch angle again. Throttling down on that main engine. Get it down to 70 and hold that until the boosters are spent. Okay. We'll do a little bit of time acceleration. Boosters separate. Main engine's the only thing pushing us now. Let's go prograde. Not quite that prograde. A little higher, a little higher, a little higher. Let's sit right there for now. Now this engine doesn't have enough thrust. No! Come on, come on, come on. Alright, let's see if I can turn this around. I'm approaching apoapsis and I'm slowing down. I'm falling. We're speeding up, but I am falling. Get me in the air. No, ain't gonna work. Ain't gonna fly. Alright. We need a more powerful rocket engine. Or we need to burn more fuel initially. Maybe we keep it at full throttle. So I know I brought this down, but we're actually going to bring this right back up. So I'm increasing the throat diameter of the nozzle. Basically, I'm making the nozzle wider. Because I'm making the nozzle wider, I'm allowing more fuel flow, and therefore more thrust for that rocket engine. And I'm going to keep it at full tilt. Same thing though, we're going to go back down to about 70. I'm going to hold it at 70-degree inclination for most of this initial burn. I'm going to throttle down a little bit, but not as much. Really, I'm just throttling for thrust-to-weight ratio. No, not sticky keys. Let's get it as close to a 2 as we can. So full throttle, we're just under a thrust-weight ratio of 2. Once these boosters finish off, this will probably drop. If I can keep it at a 1, that's good enough. There it is. Not at a 1, we're at a 0.69. So we need to burn more fuel to get us there. Thrust rate ratio of 0.72. We're going to have to add a second engine. This is going to have to be 2 engines on the bottom. Oh, man. We might still be able to salvage it. But now I'm wasting fuel. Okay, I'm just wasting fuel. All right. 2 engine time. We're going for the 2 engine solution for this one. It's like normally, if you're just playing this game in sandbox, yeah, you can just throw up, you know, as many rockets as you want. You can get just absolutely anything. But when I'm playing in career mode, I really, really try to pinch pennies and keep my costs down. So avoiding extra engines when possible. See, our budget has already gone up from 2.1 when we started the stream. With the rocket we started modifying, we're at 3.7 million now. But 2 rocket engines is going to give us twice the thrust. Let's stretch these down a little bit. I kind of like them being slightly more exposed, not fully behind this cowling. Okay. That should do it. Having the extra thrust should be what we need. Double the engine, double the fun. That's what I say. All right, all engines are go. I'm having control issues for some reason. Oh, hold on. I'm dumb. Wrong symmetry. I used mirror symmetry. I bet I could see that they're slightly off if you look at it closely. Yeah, that's mirror symmetry. So they're mirrored along this line. I need them to be radially symmetrical. There we go. There we go. Now I can maintain control over this during the launch, which is important. It's important to maintain control of your rockets. All right, same deal. I am going to throttle down more since we have a lot more thrust in this core stage. I don't need to try and burn off all my extra fuel. So I'm throttling to maintain a 2 thrust-to-weight ratio. That's what I'm shooting for. And 4.6 seems to get me to a 2. Looks good. Alright, we'll hold it at 70 degrees inclination. And wait for these rockets to finish throttling down once they burn out. As my boosters run out of fuel, their thrust goes down. Right at about 50% thrust gives me the 2 thrust-to-weight ratio, which is perfect. Orbit's looking good. Alright, we're going to go prograde. Throttle up all the way. Shed the boosters. There we go. Thrust-weight ratio 1.47. That should do us. Now I'm going to go slightly below prograde. We're just going to go parallel to the ground now. 2.3 kilometers per second. I might be able to get into orbit with the core stage and save my upper stage entirely for the burn, which would be ideal. Let's drop the fairing now that we're in space. Just hear that soft, low rumble of the engines burning. Nice and quiet. Lovely. Right there. Okay. We'll time accelerate a little bit here. Go for prograde and burn. That's our orbit. We have 214 meters per second of delta V left in this stage, plus everything in the upper stage. Hopefully, that fuel savings will be enough. All right, time accelerate. Right about there. Okay. Now we make the fine-tuning adjustments. For some reason, I'm really struggling to get this to cooperate with me. Come on. A little closer, a little closer. So my most sensitive axis is going to be my prograde and retrograde burns. There we go. Nope, too far. Oh my goodness. Cat, what do you want? My cat's down the hallway and he's got his toy in his mouth and he's meowing. I think he wants to play. We'll get to that in a second, buddy. I'm trying to smack a planet. 214. Okay, that's closer. Sub 200. 188 there. $174. Trying to find this like perfect little spot here. 122. So basically, the more I burn anti-normal, burning anti-normal actually does push my orbit out a little bit, so that I need to back in the retrograde direction. So I'm basically zigzagging my orbit in here. 58. Let's go way over here. 30. 17. 13. Not bad. 2, 1. Oh, and then it went from 1 kilometer to 25 kilometers somehow. We're very close. We're very close, people. It doesn't want to get any closer than that. How much delta V is this total? 1.3. Okay. What if we get to here? I'm gonna lock this. 100 meters away is as close as I seem to be able to get it from here. So I might need to burn at a different location to complete it. First stage is spent. Second stage is going. We'll use the second stage to finish it off. We should have, let's see, 1.87. We'll have over 1,000 meters per second of delta V, which is more than enough. And it gives us some error to get our velocity down for the impactor. Okay. So I see what our problem is with our orbit. Is that it's a little early. So this is unfortunately not the most efficient orbit, but we have given ourselves enough buffer here that I think we can make it work still. There, see? That's our impact right there. And we just had to be a little bit away from Drew, a little bit in space to be able to operate a little bit more freely. Lock, just under 30 meters per second change in velocity. It's enough to just nudge our orbit, really bring it in a little bit because we're overshooting. And then there we go. So we have our impact, which is good. So I'm going to select the point we enter the sphere of influence right here. We'll time warp to that. Now, all we got to do is time this out. One thing I kind of want to do, let's go radial in. Anti-normal. Let's go anti-normal. I'm going to play with this a little bit. I've got 1.62 kilometers per second of gas to work with here. So I want to try and impact where I can see the ground, preferably. That only cost me a little bit here. And again, I do want kind of a shallow impact because that'll give me more time to react. We have 1.54 kilometers per second. That should be more than enough. Lock retrograde in the surface reference, which is what I want. And as we come in here, approaching the surface, light the engine, decelerate. I'm not going to do it all in one burn. I'm going to do it in 2 chunks. So I'm going to cut about half my speed down here and use the remainder of my fuel to go the rest of the way. We'll do a little bit of a hover and then we'll drop. So that's burn 1. That cuts my speed down substantially. Burn 2. We've got 11 thrust weight ratio here, which is a lot just because the gravity is so weak on this planet, or this moon. So it gives me a lot of room to operate here. we'll get this one to sub 100. Right at about 100, we'll cut it. Okay. So we are inside our launch window. But before I go any further, I kind of want to hover, and then we're going to turn the rocket upside down and drop the payload. So we'll throttle down here. Let's get to 1,000 meters. Because I don't want to drop it, and then the payload accelerates past 100 meters per second. That's the fear. So let's do that. Drop it. 13 meters per second. 18, 19, 20. It should not reach 100. No, it won't reach 100. It should just bounce. Should just bounce. Well, it exploded. What? What? What on earth? Okay. Everything exactly the same, but faster. Everything exactly the same, but faster. Here we go. Aggressively pitch over 70. Not messing around. Throttle down, throttle down, throttle down. I'm bored. Back to 70. Back to 70. Back to 70. Okay. What? What exploded? Alright, rocket failed on launch for some reason. I don't even know why that time. I actually don't know why that happened that time. Fine. Same thing. I was doing that at 8 times time acceleration, so that might have been part of the problem. It's possible. Let's go a little parallel a little earlier. Bring up my throttles early. Go prograde. Go sub-prograde. Go flat. This will do it. This will be it right here. Okay. So I think 72 kilometers. 72 kilometers is just outside space. We're still in atmosphere right now. So maybe it's 80 now. Maybe I need to push this farther. I guess it is. Because I'm still getting some drag. Ah, it is. Okay. Am I in space yet? I'm so close to being in space. Now I'm in space? Now I'm in space. Okay. So we'll go circularize real quick. Okay. 283, about the same as before. That's fine. Select Brigo. All right, we waited a little bit longer to do our burn. There we go. And because we waited longer, we're a lot closer to the plane of orbit. In fact, we're so close that we just have a hit. So I'm going to undershoot slightly because I assume that the burn is going to overshoot here. And then if we need to correct, all I have to do is burn prograde. It's not that hard to correct it. I don't even have to do a burn node. I can just do a very short manually controlled burn with the engines. First stage gone. Second stage is going. Here we go. And cut the engines. We have our impact. It's slightly shallow. So what I could do... Nah, we'll leave it. We'll leave it. I want it to be slightly shallow because I want to land on the light side of the planet anyway. So that's fine. Time warp here. It's actually kind of perfect. Let's do one radial outburn. Just a puff. Just a puff. And actually, I'm going to go slightly above the planet. Because we're basically going to fall into orbit anyway. We got 1.74 kilometers per second. So we've been much more efficient with our burn here. Our transfer burn was very good. Let's go radial out one more time. I don't want to be quite that close. That's a little close for me. There's the surface of the planet. We are very close. We are kind of riding the lightning here. Look at that, just streaming by. This is no time acceleration. This is how fast we're moving. Okay. Thrusters lit. So we're actually going to increase in altitude a little bit first. Kind of. Slightly. Which is fine. Right, because we're in an orbit. So we're going to go up slightly. But now I get to pretty much control that. all the way down. So this time we're going to do one big burn. Go planet align. There we go. It's easier to look at. Because all of our velocity now is lateral, which makes it very easy to kill out. We can just cancel this out, go down to 0 meters per second. I want to be hovering. I want 0 lateral velocity. And as we've slowed down, okay. So that is all of our lateral velocity canceled out. We're moving directly down. And I'm going to try and get this as soft as possible. Just a very, very, very soft touchdown is what I'm shooting for. I'm going to do that by doing basically the same thing we did before. Hold on. Real quick. Let's do a quick save in case, so I don't have to repeat this. All right, detach the... I'm doing what the thing up here told me to. It told me to detach the impactor, so I detached it. Should be fine. All right, should be fine. Maybe I did just launch it too fast. Maybe that's the problem. Oh? She's rolling. She's bouncing. Another bounce. Another bounce. Another bounce. Another bounce. A little bit of extra velocity here. A little bit of extra velocity here. She's rolling. Okay, let's do just a little bit of time acceleration. Because I think she's going to roll for a little bit now. There we go. Hey! And there's our little probe guy. Look at that. All right, we did it. Save flight. Save and exit. Holy cow. That ended up being a lot more than I thought. We learned some stuff. We learned some lessons there, for sure. Straight to a Luna lander. It's the same. Okay. Interesting. And this gives us very specific, like, a very specific profile it's laying out here. Okay. We could do that. Or we could do something a little simpler. Let's do the mountain camp. Let's do something totally different. So, no more space this live stream. We're going to do one more contract. We're going to do the mountain resupply. So, we need to build a vehicle. And let's look at the stock vehicles, because we might be able to copy off of something and go from there. No, not that. Something more basic. Simple sub. No, not that. Simple bot. Yikes, not that. Simple ATV. No, I don't think any of these are actually what we want. These are all fun. These are all cool, but I don't think this is what we want. Simple truck. Funny. I was thinking of something actually simple. These are actually fairly complex there. All right, we're just going to do a new craft. Let's make it a plane orientation, so horizontal orientation. This portion does not need to be crazy. I want a little bit of gyros, but most of this is going to be volume. 80-20 split seems fine. Actually, we could probably do a 90-10 split, because I'm going to make this fairly large. There we go. And also square. Maybe not square. Maybe we do round. Okay. Because this is going to be our main battery. Maybe we don't even put that much battery in. Maybe we do like that much battery. I don't know. Maybe narrow it. Narrow it a little bit. Okay, that's fine. Let's add what will be the base of our chassis here. So we'll start with the cylinder, we'll place it there, and then I'm going to make this the square. Yes. Yes. Rotate it. Let's do 1.75. There we go. Center that. Drop this down. Pull this back. Okay. Now for the vehicle itself. I want it to be crude because we get extra tech points if it's crude. So we'll throw down 2 chairs like that on either side. Now for the wheels. So we do have shocks, which I want to utilize. We don't have rotors yet, though, so that kind of limits us. We're going to go for the off-road wheels. We're not quite that intense. That would get us there for sure. Let's make it a little bit smaller, though. All right, now I'm going to rotate this to a 90. Rotate that back to a 90. Translate it out. Oh, you know what? Actually, before we go any further, instead of doing that, real quick, we'll use a strut part for the wheel axle. Scoot that up. There we go. Okay. So that's our wheel. We mirror that. Copy, paste. I do the same thing, put it on the back. And then just to make sure these wheels are... Oh, no, wrong one. Click, undo, undo. There we go. Just to make sure the wheels are lined up properly. Do they overlap? Boom, now they overlap. So I just slide this back to here. And we'll mirror that as well. Now, I can adjust the values on these shocks to get the kind of suspension that I want. But for now, that'll do. Now, the payload. The payload is just a box, and it will fall. Like, it's not actually attached to anything, and it'll slide around. So I need a container for it to sit in. And here's what I'm thinking. We get another fuel tank, right? Much smaller. Much smaller. More like that size. In fact, we could just pop it on the back here. Right? Hear me out. It does not need to be very thick, because that's not what's actually containing it. We'll make it a square. Disconnect it from the command disk there because I don't want it to affect the command disk. I just used it. I used it on the command disk just to get it lined up where I wanted it, but I don't actually want it to attach to that. Okay. Now, hear me out. Inner stage. Like that. Oh, wrong way. Hold on. Rotate. Making a little cage for this, basically. Now, I just need to make sure that the part attachments aren't all weird. Basically have that sit there. And then this guy sits inside the cage. Now, if this works the way I want it to, and we'll do a little test before we do anything, but if this works the way I want it to, all I have to do is scoot the truck forward and then it plops out the back. That's the idea. Let's throw some solar panels on it. So that in the event that this mission goes long, I can keep the vehicle charged. And then should we build an actual cabin for it? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if we want to build a cabin or not. Do I have the panel, the structural panel part? We do. What I could do, drop this down here like that, right? Scoot it over to the edge. Scoot it all the way to the end. Like that. Leave that there. That's fine. Like that. Bring this as far forward as I can. That's it. Okay. Mirror. Copy. Paste. Same thing. Scoot that back. But actually, not all the way. Do kind of like that thing right there. And then what if we did... Do I have a cargo bay? I do have the cargo bay. Okay, hear me out. Hear me out. This looks weird at first, but hear me out. This was 1.75 in diameter, right? So 1.75 by 1. And we make the bottom square. Now we do 1.75 by 1. And again, we make the bottom square. We make the hood, the engine compartment, you know, the front of the vehicle right there. So that sits there like that. Just paint it white for now. Now that I've added this part, it's actually quite easy to add a section. Go forward with it. Shrink this back. Shrink this down. Boom. Just like that. And then cap it off with the nose cone. Flatten this and make it... straight, I guess? No, that looks terrible. That looks really bad. What if we just do a regular fuel tank, though? Like that. Do I have lights yet? Have I unlocked lights? I have not unlocked lights. Whatever. We don't really need lights. Okay. No textures on any of these. Smooth finish. Seamless edge. Yep. Yep. Let's see how our brave astronauts fit. Oh, they fit nicely. They fit quite nicely. In fact, we can scoot these in just a little bit. But that gives them plenty of leg room, which is perfect. Now, let's do this. Let's bring in a structural panel to serve as the cab itself. Right? Do kind of that maneuver right there. We'll paint all this white too for now. Try and get their arms inside the vehicle. There we go. Okay, that works. Let's just add on top of this another piece. Make them the same thickness. Then we're just gonna rotate it down to the middle. Scoot it back a step. Boom. That's the top. This needs to be ever so slightly taller. Rinse and repeat. Slightly more headspace. There we go. Is this like the best vehicle anyone's ever designed in this game? No, absolutely not. But it'll work. It'll for sure work. One step forward like that. Now, let's add the forward pieces here. Come out and meet in the middle. That's fine. And then I just need to add a post up to the middle here. And that should be fine. That should be enough. Okay. One more structural panel. We'll go with the same one we started with here. This is going to be pretty skinny. We will push it forward and out. Nope, nope, nope. Undo. Okay, I think that'll do. Is it basic? Yeah, 100%. It's very basic. But it doesn't look terrible. It doesn't look great, but it doesn't look terrible. And it gets the job done. And that's really what I'm here for. I'm here to get the job done. I'm not here to make super fancy, crazy, awesome looking vehicles. I'm here to get something that will successfully complete the contract. That a little longer. Maybe we do... There's one more thing we could do. We could go... Oh, no. Undo. Big misclick. Not what I wanted to do. We go right there. Rotate this. Back. go all the way over to the other wall. Basically just make a back panel. And I just want to get this angle to line up right. That should do. Nope, slightly too steep, slightly shallower. 1 degree. There we go. Perfect. Close enough. Not perfect, but it's close enough. We do that. Then we copy, paste, add this guy here. Get him lined up the same. But we shrink him down to there. Now we can use this transparent texture. Windscreen. At least the back windscreen. Do we do the same for the front? Maybe. Maybe we do the same for the front. I'm not sure. We could try. Let's try. Let's put that there. Rotate it. Now, here's where this is going to get a little tricky. And I think I'm going to have to take this apart slightly. Let's move this up, but I want it out of the way of their feet, right? So that should be high enough. Okay. And then we just scoot this in place. And undo that. There we go. All right, I think that'll do for our truck. Now, we just need to test the delivery mechanism and make sure that works, but everything else should be good. We'll start out on the village pad. Too wide. Let's try the runway then. Yes, we can launch from the runway. So our vehicle's a little too wide to fit on the pad, but we can launch from the runway. That's fine. That is fine indeed. Let's time warp. Cannot time warp while carrying this payload. Oh, I forgot to give my wheel turning ability. Okay. The design itself is probably fine. It looks like it was holding the thing in. The thing we have to do now is get the rest of it to work. Another thought I just had while I'm sitting here. We can make this happen very easily. 1.75. 1.75. 1.75. 1.75. 0.5. 0.5. 0.5. Okay. Let's just adjust this, get this to fit nicely. Now, yeah, and that whole assembly sits right there. Now what I can do is cover that up slightly. So let's take another solar panel, move it up to be parallel with this solar panel, make it not as long, like so. Mirror it. Boom. So now the payload sits inside an enclosed trunk bed. I think that'll work. I think that'll do. Let's find out. Before we go any further, we need to take our inputs. So I want this to be pitch. And it needs to have a turning angle. This will also be pitch. Okie dokie. We've got a controllable vehicle, I think. We should technically have a controllable vehicle now. There we go. Now she's controllable. The back of the truck falls off, and I can get the payload to fall out of the truck. That is what I needed to be able to do. Alright. Make a couple more tweaks before we actually start our climb. This mission isn't technically complex. It is skill complex because we have to drive up this mountain, which is actually tricky. I'm going to increase the traction on all my vehicle, all these wheels. And then max out the torque and the gear ratio for maximum climbability. And let's stiffen these. With high, max out the damper maybe? Tune the suspension a little bit. Okay, let's try that setup. Tuned our suspension, we've updated the control scheme. I still feel like we're sliding around a little bit. But she's got lots of torque. Low top speed, but lots of torque. And the mountain camp is way up there. So we need to drive 3 kilometers up a mountain. The way we're going to do this, there's an off-ramp at the base of this runway. Maybe my gear ratio is a little too high. And I need to bring that down a little bit so we can get a little bit more speed out of it. But we should be able to climb the mountain with ease with this vehicle. Kind of wish I had headlights for this. Because I feel like I can barely see where I'm going or what I'm doing. But the suspension seems to be doing its job, keeping me nice and level here. Yeah, that's actually working out quite nicely. And the payload, it does not look like the payload is bounced out of the truck. That'll be my big cue that something's gone wrong is if I lose the payload or if I see it flying. So I'm going to keep my eyes out for that. If we lose the payload, mission failed. We'll get them next time. But this thing has no problem rock crawling, getting up this hill. Let's see. I was going to go up this valley, but let's see if I can't just brute force it straight up the hill. I might be able to. In fact, it would appear this truck has the traction and the torque required. We can just drive up the mountain. I'm just praying that the payload does not fall out of the back. Because if that happens, it's game over. Which would be just super annoying. But it should be held in place. Actually, you know what we can do? Let's pause real quick. Can I no-clip the camera into the payload? I guess I could have put a camera in the payload. Oh well. That's fine. Yeah, normally this mission's a lot trickier, and you have to, like, carefully drive up this valley. Ooh, let's slow down a little bit. Alright, on the downhill slope now. I might just apply some slight static braking here. So this is the tricky part, is we got to get all the way up there. I think I see a path. If we go kind of this way, and then up, follow this ridge along here, maybe. Maybe that's what we need to do. I do not want to flip the vehicle over, though. Nice and controlled. There we go. That was a little hairy right there. Okay. Seems like this is working. We'll go up this way, and then we'll be up on the plateau. We can drop off our payload, call it a mission success. Only a kilometer away now. This truck would be much nicer if I could put some lights on it. Unfortunately, I don't think I've unlocked the technology that gives me lights. Otherwise, this mission would be a little easier. I could see a little better. There's enough ambient light. I could turn down the ambient light, I guess. I mean, there's enough ambient light I can see very clearly. But, really, I would like to turn the ambient light almost completely off. Make it a little bit more realistic, a little nicer looking. Okay, over this ridge. 600 meters away, still doing pretty well as far as control of the vehicle goes. No real complaints or issues so far. Half a kilometer out. I think the payload is still in there. That's the one downside, is I don't know if the payload's still in there. I guess I could have made this back piece transparent. Should have thought of that earlier, because then I would have been able to tell whether or not I had lost the payload. Because if we get here and I don't have the payload in the truck, then it doesn't matter, because it's a mission failed. There's the camp. You just need to be inside this little radius here. There's the payload. All right, sweet. It's still here. And as soon as I accelerate, because I've got so much acceleration on this vehicle, almost too much, some would say. Vehicle, the payload pops out, and that's it. End flight. And we can recover almost the entire value of the vehicle. So it didn't cost us anything to do that. Drive 125 kilometers. That's a bit expensive. Equilibrium. Stay grounded. Go through all checkpoints in under 4 minutes. Oh, I have to balance along the wall? Yeah, no thanks. Okay, so we got a couple more missions ahead of us. Another race. We could go up into orbit and get these guys, or we could land on the moon. That is the next progression milestone. Tech-wise, we've unlocked a decent chunk of the tech tree at this point. A lot of it is in the operations side. A little bit in rockets and components. So we do have quite a bit there. Having... Not that one. Which one is it? No, not that one. I guess this finesse would be the next, like, engine tech, because it gives us the staged fuel cycle, which gives us a lot better fuel efficiency. And then up here we have full flow stage, aerospike nozzles, nuclear engines, final edge of that. Active crafts and the crew limit. Yeah, so this is all crew stuff, and then planes and vehicles are down here, right? So we have the lunar tires, bigger wheels, landing wheels. So this is all landing gear, actual gyroscope part, all that stuff down here. This is the one, the light technology right there, and that unlocks night vision, which is kind of cool. And then we've got solar panels, all that stuff. Okay, great. So that is where we're seeing with tech. We don't have enough tech points. To get tech points, we need to either fulfill contracts that give tech points. So like Alley Race gives us 10 tech points if we do it with a actual manned vehicle, vice just a RC car basically. 10 tech points if we achieve 15 meters per second underwater velocity in a torpedo basically. That's terrifying. 15 tech points for the endurance trips. That'd be an easy one. Silaro orbit, 7 tech points to put a human being or a druid in orbit of another planet. That seems a little light. CubeSat mission, Explorer mission, CubeSat mission, True Orbit. These are all just like procedurally generated missions because we've already done a couple of those. The other option for getting tech points is to complete milestones. So putting a druid in space will give us 1 tech point right away, or 10 tech points right away. 3 gives us 20, 10, 30, so on and so forth. Top speed around Drew, so we could go really fast. If we hit 20 kilometers per second, that's worth 10, which is crazy. We've already done all the altitude ones because we've been to space. That's like one of the easiest ways. Blowing stuff up. Would be relatively easy, actually, because each part counts as an explosion. 10 million in total returns gives us 40. That's a lot. If we launch another 17 crafts, that gives us 40. And if we fulfill another, 16 contracts, that would give us some. There's also exploration milestones. So, and each of these is worth a couple, right? Yeah, so these are overall milestones, and these are exploration milestones, which these break out a little differently, right? So total orbits around Drew, 3 more, and we get 100 tech points, which actually, shoot, that's not that many. Each of these ground stations is also worth some. And you just have to land. Jeez, we could probably get to those. Let's go back to building this truck real quick. We might be able to just launch a mission. No contract, just launch a mission. Let's save this as our career mode. Mode. Truck. Save it. Now I already have a plane. Got this biplane. We used this earlier in the series, and it's pretty good. It really is pretty good. Let's get rid of that. But we could make it better. 1 wingspan. we give it a longer wingspan, that will increase its or decrease its stall speed. Basically, longer wings generate more lift at lower speed, so I can get a higher or a lower stall speed. That's idea one. It'll make it slower, because by increasing the surface area of all these, I'm increasing the drag. But I'll take the lower stall speed any day. Let's give this some beefier landing gear, significantly beefier. Like all the way beefy. I'm thinking like Piper Cub style bush plane, right? That's what I'm thinking here. Kind of like that. So that's our tail gear right there. Okay. Or we could make it a tripod landing gear configuration. Maybe we do the tripod. Where's my center of mass? Right there. Okay. So here's what we do. For a tripod landing gear, the rear landing gear need to be behind the center of mass. That's important. Obviously. Get rid of that support arm. And just push these back here. Now we add another landing gear. Center line. This one, we can give it the support arm. Give it a little bit of a forward offset. And size it up all the way. Gear length all the way down. Till it sits right there. Scoot it forward. Paint it black. Kind of like that. Scoot these back. Like so. Now we have our triangle offset rings. Not triangle. Tricycle style landing gear setup. Little beefy for the size of the plane. I guess we could make this a little bit bigger just by, you know, making it wider. So go to 1.2. And then just increase each of these by 2. Also increase the length just slightly. So we're just kind of scaling this plane up, right? That's all we're really doing here. Scaling this plane up. Center of lift is fine. Maybe we do a different paint scheme. The McDonald's plane, I think that's what we were calling it towards the end when I was flying this last time. The McDonald's plane's fun and all, but it might be time for a different paint scheme. And let's give it some serious, definitely more serious control surfaces here. Because then what that'll enable us to do is push the wings forward. I want to push these forward just slightly, just like that. Okay. Let's break it down to an all-white paint scheme, repaint it, kind of start from scratch here. right? So this is a really bland, boring paint scheme. That's fine. We'll make it more interesting here in a second. Let's start by making these all the dark gray. That can stay as black. That can stay as black. Red stripe on the propellers is fine. Kind of want it to look like a wooden propeller, so that's fine. Let's do... For the rest of the vehicle's paint scheme, I'm not really sure how I want to go about this. Nope, nope. Clicked on the wrong spot there. There we go. We can update our windscreen, though. Make this slightly taller. Sure, that works. Do we want more solar panels? Because that's one concern I have, is that we're going to run out of solar power. We do have space in the wings for fuel. Let's put some fuel in these wings, right? So, jet fuel. Both wings. Did I put a generator in this? I did not. Let's slap a generator in this. Give it a little engine, right? Right there is fine. So it uses jet fuel. We'll put jet fuel here and in the wings. Check our stats. Center of lift, center mass are fine. So we've got a fuel tank, fuel tank, fuel tank, engine, electric motor, propellers. It should be fine. It should work. Let's go paint our control surfaces. And then a little bit of text wouldn't be too bad. Give it a name, maybe. Let's call it Albatross. Why not? Just random name. Bird. Plane. It's a bird. It's a plane. It's a bird, you know. That's where that name comes from, just out of my head. Mirror, make it a little bit larger, and we can mess with the font. That's fine. Paint it black. No, gosh darn it. I didn't even click on you that time. I'm not clicking on you. Okay. Let's give it a test flight. Let's see if we can get it to launch. And see how she performs. So throttle up. Ugh, lot of induced torque. Let's try that again. So there's a lot of induced torque by the propeller. Which is what caught me there. Okay, let's build up some airspeed. We'll just wait till we hit the end of the runway. Alright, we're airborne. Again, a lot of induced torque. But she's flying. In this little heavier duty version of my original biplane. She is flying. I'm burning through quite a bit of energy. But if I run the generator, it's called a fuel cell, but it's a generator. If I run the generator, I am charging my batteries, which is good. That's what I want to see. So, nearest station is right here, Bliss ground station. We'll target that. Here's my first person view. Kind of a nice little cockpit view here. So there's Bliss ground station way out there. We lock on. Still quite a bit of torque from the engine. The good news is I don't have to run that continuously. I just need to turn that on every once in a while. And that'll be all it takes. It is going to oscillate a little bit, but I'm making decent headway towards our destination here. I'm, let's see, climbing just a little bit, so we could probably, well, let's turn off time acceleration, so I can control this. Probably maintain it right there. Yeah, so you can see we're trading a little bit of fuel every time we run that engine to charge it, but it tops off our batteries very quickly, so that's very fuel efficient. That's going to give us plenty of range. So it should be able to get us all the way out to this ground station here without too much issue. It's 1,000 kilometers away. I've already moved a little fraction here just in getting set up. Alright, I think we're just going to do this for a little bit. If you're tuning into the live stream right now, we're doing a little bit of a night flight over Drew to this ground station because I want to get extra tech points, and an easy way to do that is to visit these locations. So we're flying over to this spot right here, 877 kilometers away, and it looks like my automatic autopilot here, where I just lock my heading, and then there's actually a little PID script you can go into here. So if I go autopilot, pull this window up, right, I can adjust the properties that are controlling the autopilot. But it seems to have settled in kind of a sweet spot, and it's right in line with the target. So I'm going to let it sit. We're just going to let this roll for a little bit and see if we can't get to the ground station on one tank of gas. Let's run the engine again. The batteries are getting a little low. I could write a little bit of Visi code actually, and have a just have a script that turns that engine on when battery gets to below 50%. It turns the engine on, turns the engine off when battery gets to 90%, and it just keeps charging the batteries as we fly. That might be worth it in a future flight. For now, I'm just going to control it manually. It seems like we've destabilized a little bit, but not too bad. Should be fine. We're maintaining pretty much a stable altitude, maybe slightly climbing, which is also fine. See, there goes one of my rockets that I've already launched flying by. We can look again from the first-person view inside the biplane. Look around us, look behind us. Pretty nice little view from the cockpit there. I'm glad I pushed the wings forward a little bit. I feel like that helps with the view because I can look up past the wings and see the stars out there. You know, actually, just a thought that came to mind, but ambient light at night. Let's turn that down. Turn this down as well. Turn the star brightness up a little bit. Yeah. Make it a little bit darker. There we go. There we go. And the stars are reflecting in my windshield. Look at that. What a beautiful sight. That's actually pretty right there. Just flying along. Alright. We'll let this go for a little longer. We are 690 kilometers away. Getting closer, getting closer. Yeah, I'm gonna mute my microphone for a bit. I'm not gonna try doing commentary for the next 5 minutes, sitting here looking at this. We're just gonna fly and see if we can get there. We are still looking good on fuel. I also like that when I hover over this, it shows me where the fuel tanks are. I do think I'll need to drain the wings into the fuselage fuel tank. Yeah, these are both full. That one is getting close to empty. So when this is like about to empty out, I will drain both of these. Not going to do that right now though. Okay, looks like the autopilot has completely destabilized. We've picked up a little bit of speed though. We're going pretty fast. Let's try that. It might wobble a little bit. This isn't the kind of like physics time warp where it starts to like get out of bounds, basically, where it's overcorrecting or going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and every time it oscillates, it's oscillating more and more and more in this kind of feedback loop. This is a lot more tame than that, so I'm not too worried about it. It's just slightly annoying to watch this thing wiggle in the air, but as long as it's flying, I don't really mind it. Run the generator a little bit again. Yeah, that generator and bringing those fuel tanks really extended the range on this plane. I was just using this plane for some of the air races, so it had no fuel, just the battery. But giving it the fuel tanks, I'm still at like 60% of my fuel load basically, and 60% of the fuel, over halfway there at this point, so not too shabby. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to drain both wing tanks. Fill that. Alright, disable fuel transfer. So I have moved fuel into the main tank here from my reserve tanks. We're still bouncing around a little bit. Doing 157, 156 meters per second is not too bad. So let's just cruise for a little bit and see how this goes. And I've let the battery run down, so we're going to keep the generator back on. We'll reduce time more, just flying back to altitude here. Let it go for a little too long there. But it's fine. We got plenty of fuel still on board. So we'll run the generator for a minute here, try and fully recharge the battery, basically. Get as much juice in there as possible. Shut it off. And then we're 200 kilometers, 230 kilometers away, getting pretty close now. I'm a little worried about trying to do a night landing, but I can also just turn the ambient light up in-game to make this night landing happen. Safely, that is. Alright, shut that engine off. Battery is full. Let's drain our last of our wing tank reserve to the main fuel tank. So that is all of our fuel now out of the reserve tanks into the main tank. Turn those off. Just got a little bit more to go. Trying to offset some of this. Nah, it didn't really work. Okay, we'll go another 140 kilometers to the end here. Not very far indeed. It's actually on the horizon now. We can physically see it. Well, I mean, we can't see it because it's night, but it is now within our field of view. So, should be getting pretty close now. couple more charge ups here. 70 kilometers away, we're getting real close. Kilometers and closing. All right, we are on our kind of final approach here. So I'm going to do a couple things. One, let's turn up that ambient light so I can see a little better. That's kind of ridiculous, but you know, it'll work for now. That might be a little too much ambient light. Let's go. There we go. At least it's kind of dim now. All right, let's turn off our autopilot, bring down our time warp. We're going to start our descent. I'm going to fly by the station a couple of times, see if I can figure out where I want to land. Yeah, the plane's a little wobbly. So this is true for all single-engine planes. There's a torque being imparted on the plane, right? So the propeller is spinning this way, and the plane is spinning the propeller, but the propeller is also spinning the plane, is what's happening. So you have to compensate with a little bit of roll every once in a while to keep it on track. It's not too bad, but it is a bit annoying. Okay, we can see that circle right there is where we need to land. We need to stop the plane in that circle. I'm going to do a flyby first, just to get a feel for the geometry here, what I'm trying to approach. We're using 2 times time acceleration just to make this work for. It's going to be a little jittery because I'm just having to make constant little nudges. Okay, let's go to no time acceleration. There we go. So now our ambient lighting is showing us a little bit more. So it's on a plateau on a mountain here. This side does not look like it's a good approach, but if I come at it from this side, Kill My Engines can like kind of land here. If I can land on this plateau from over here and coast up to it, that should work for us. I'm going to throttle way down. Bring my power in. I'm going to kill a lot of airspeed here. Before we actually go for a landing, I want to see what my stall speed's going to be. I've not actually tested to see, you know, the minimum speed that I can maintain altitude at. We're down to 80, down to 79, 76. I still have control of the plane. 68, still have control of the plane, can still control my altitude. So like 50s. We're going real slow now. I'm going to put just a little bit of trim on it. I try and keep my speed nice and low here. Almost all the way back on the throttle. Almost. Not quite. Not all the way back on the throttle. Just almost. A little bit more. A little bit of power. So I've upgraded the landing gear on this. It's got a lot beefier landing gear. No suspension, really, which might bite us. It might bite us, but I think we can do it without suspension if we're careful. Okay, kill power. Okay, well, a landing we can walk away from is a landing. We're stopped. Let's get the Druid out. Because you know what? I don't think the plane... Hold on. Break. I don't want to lose the plane. But I don't want... I don't need the plane. I don't think I need the plane. I think I just need to get the guy up there. Turn my thing off. I don't need that. Let's just run up this hill. Yeah, plane's out. Let's run up this hill. Run faster. Run, 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 run. Because I think as soon as I get inside the radius... Yeah, it counts. So all I need is to get the guy out. Well, that's much easier. Okay. Let's go back to the plane. Which is somewhere down this hill. I turned the brakes back on. Yeah, there it is. Still intact. See if I can recover it. If I can't, I'll take the cost of the flight. The plane's not super expensive. So I'll take the cost of the plane over over the tech points we get from it. Well, let me get back in. And let's recover. Tech points awarded 50. Recover craft. It'll cost 21,000 because we're so far away from everything, but that's fine. 20,000 plus the cost of the plane is fine. We have 65 tech points now. Now we're talking. So we have retractable landing gear as an option. What else do we have? What else can we get? Heat shield coating, which might be good for later, but we don't need it right now. So really, yeah, it's just this tier right here. And then trap don't. Trap door, trap don't. So doorless cargo bay. Nah, we don't need that. Paint shop. Striped fuselage, not worth it. Rounded noses and hemispheres, nah. The gyroscopes would be good, because what does gyroscopes unlock? Rotators? That would be good. But I think retractable landing gear would be better. I think that's what we want, because then we can get some more fuel efficiency with our planes, be able to pull in our landing gear. We can reject and unreject contracts. Let's go refresh contract. See if we can get a different contract. Druid Surface Rescue. We could take the truck for that. I don't know how far away he is. That's an option. Kind of the same deal. Another Brigo Impactor mission. We have $3.5 billion to work with, so money's not the challenge. One thing. Distance flying. So we've flown 6,000 kilometers. I had a plane. I built a plane. I did this live stream a while ago where I had a plane that could fly forever. Because it had an airspeed that was close enough that it would basically circumnavigate Drew in a day. So it could fly around Drew in a day. Solar powered. So if you launched it at noon at the equator and you flew around Drew, it would stay illuminated by the sun for the entire flight, and the solar panels generated enough electricity to keep the plane flying. So you could just continue to fly indefinitely. So that's an option. We would need to fly another 4,000 kilometers and then 90,000 kilometers to get 90 tech points. That's a bit expensive. The other option is the deepest dive. So Drew has a couple trenches we could get a probe down to. And if you get a probe all the way down to the bottom, which wouldn't be super expensive, we could just go there, drop one probe. That would be 20, so 50, 140 tech points for one mission. It would require getting to it, but, you know, it's an option. Ground distance travel, that just takes a long time. Distance walked also takes a long time. Distance navigated is by boat, which doesn't take as long, but it does take some time. Land speed, air speed, water speed. What's the land speed record? We've gone 124. If we get to, we could break the sound barrier for tech points. But I don't really have the runway for that right now. Let's try deepest dive and also navigate because we're gonna have to take a boat. I might already have a boat that would work, and if not, one of the stock vehicles might work. We could make some modifications to. Let's save this. Career mode, we'll call it the Albatross. Because that's what it is. It's what we named it. Let's load craft, show stock craft. Do they have a... Well, they got a freighter. This thing's kind of ridiculous. Let's ditch these. I'm sure they put it on for a reason. And that reason's probably great and makes a lot of sense at the time. But we don't really need it. In fact, I don't even have the tech to use those parts. So we're going to ditch them. We don't even have this. Yeah, it's worth 28 million. So we don't have... Fuselage is too slanted. Okay. So we actually can't... Yeah, we can't make this because we don't have certain techs that are required. The motors are too big. All right, so we're gonna make a new craft from scratch. Airplane. I think I have batteries now. Yeah, we can use batteries now. That's great. Let's start with just the command ship. I'm gonna make this fairly large because instead of battery, it's all gyro. Unfortunately, the way the game works right now, maybe they've covered this in an update. I haven't played in a while, so maybe there's an update where they've kind of fixed this, but rudders don't really work in water. Not the way you'd think. So we're going to need a gyroscope to actually turn the ship. Inefficient, yes, but it'll do for now. Let's put this bad boy on the bottom. Let's make it as big as it allows me to. How big can I make a thing? 50 meters? Is that the limit? Looks like it. Okay. 0 offset. Width, 5 meters. Let's do 10 meters. Okay, let's do 10. 15 meters deep. 10 and 15. Now I want to make the top is going to be flat. What about 25? Can I do 25? Can I do 20? Can I do 12? 20 and 12? There we go. No texture for now. And I liked the kind of darker gray look from that other ship, so we'll go with that. So this is going to be our main hull. Nothing fancy about it. It will float. I'm not worried about it floating. So let's do 2 whole sections long, so 100 meters long, and then it'll be a little bit more than 100 meters, but this will be the kind of front section here. So width will go down to 15. Add a section. go down to 10. Also bring up the bottom. Add a section. 0 that. Go to 5. Go to 4. Go to 1. Sure, 1 will do. We're going to go seamless edges on all these, so that it looks more like one continuous piece. So that's the front of the ship. Back of the ship will be a little blunter. Add a section. We'll make it 5. And then we'll do 15. And bring this up to 10. Okay, so that's the general shape of the hull. It's going to be a long freighter-style ship. That's what we're going for here. Now, I don't have very big propellers, so this may just not work. This may just not work. But let's see how big I can make this. Okay. So, right, here's the trick. Is that I can't do a big propeller, right? If I can't do a big propeller, then I'm going to do a lot of little propellers. So I'm going to make 5 of these, and then we'll use mirror symmetry on them. Hopefully this doesn't come with any negative performance issues. Might need to make a smaller boat. Maybe. Man, don't crush my dreams. I like big boats. You're probably right. Okay. Too big. Let's tone this down a bit, right? So I did 20 and 12. Let's do 5 and 4 and 3. 5 and 3. And this can be 20. Is that better? Is that more appropriately sized for the limitations of my vehicle? I like big boats. I like conquering the high seas, you know? You know what I'm saying? Okay, smaller boat. Right? Which is what you wanted. You wanted the smaller boat. Let's do a 4-blade count. So that's a little bit more reasonable for propeller size. We'll set that over here for now. Yeah, I know. I probably needed someone to say it. Or I would have done something really ridiculous. 2. We'll do 1. Add section. So we'll do the same process here. 3. Uh, 2.5. Maybe we make this slightly longer. There we go. Add section. 0 that. 1.5. 1. Not as long. Yeah. Add section, length 0.2, 0. There we go. All right, so that's the front. add section, make it 2 long. Make it 2.5 wide, make it 1 long. Like that. All right, that's the boat. Is that better? Jack-o'-lantern, is that more appropriately scaled? Probably. It's probably more effective. Okay, let's paint that a different color so it's a little easier to pick out. And then that can be black. Looks like I will need a propeller shaft to get this out away from the ship. That's fine. Kind of like that. Mirror it. And bring it in a little bit. Like that. Okay. So, that is our propulsion. Now we need some ballast. This thing is currently a little back heavy because of the engines. So we're going to put battery tanks. Basically, wherever I put this battery tank, that's where the center of mass is going to be. Mirror symmetry to keep it balanced. And then I want it low to the hole. Because I want my center of mass to be nice and low. There we go. And then let's just put this roughly in the middle of the boat. Like that. Now we need a wheelhouse. Every good boat needs a wheelhouse. It's important. So let's center this bad boy up here. We'll go 0 radius, 0 radius, rotate 90. Does not need to be that tall. Still doesn't need to even be that tall. Let's do 3 meters by 3 meters by 2 meters. Okay, so that's the pilot house. Just a rough representation of the pilot house. Nothing crazy. We'll put some windows on it before we send this off to sea, but that's fine for now. The other thing, before we go any further, is we need 2 things, really. I've got Visi available to me. But some way to keep it powered, right, is going to be important. These will double as the cargo hatches. As far as appearance goes. Oops. Undo that. Yeah, we'll go with that. Copy, paste. Copy, paste. Mirrored. 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 Okay. So we've got solar panels, which doubles the cargo hatches as far as aesthetics go. Can add like a little smokestack. Or a generator. I'm trying to think what other things we want to add to this. Do we want it manned? Maybe we do. Maybe we want it manned. Maybe we don't for now. Let's leave it unmanned for now. For fear of something going wrong. Okay. Now let's add ourselves our windows. The way I'm going to do this is we'll make this depth 0.1. 1, 1, 1, 1. We'll start with this. We'll size it as we need after. There we go. Paint it black. Nope, wrong one. Paint it black for now. Rotate this here. .5 and 0.7. Okay. So our pilot house has a window. We can copy this. Mirror it to the other side of the ship. And place this in the same spot. On the opposite sides. Okay. Let's just see if it works. Take it to the bay, launch it. And let's see if we can control it. That's the first step. One, let's see if it's the right weight. So, all right, center of mass, right? Too far forward, need to shift it back. Also probably make it a little heavier. We can adjust that by just pushing the, by basically making the batteries longer. So that's an easy thing to adjust. Let's start there. So our batteries are right here. And let's just take a look at where our center of mass is ending up. Let's make it a little longer and then just scoot it back a bit. All right, set it in the water, see how it settles. There we go. Still a little far forward. Let's turn on the propellers and see what speed we're getting up to. Oh, we're going backwards, so that's the first problem. So let's reverse the polarity on our motors here. Electric motor. Invert. There we go. That should fix that. Also, we were still a little too far forward, right? So let's just scoot that back a little bit more. All right, let's try that out. We've adjusted our center of mass again, and we fixed the motors. They were getting us up to 5 meters per second, which is pretty fast for boats. Let's give it a whirl. Now we're moving forward 7 meters per second. Again, that's fast for a boat. I just want to put that out there. That is fast for a boat. how about under time acceleration? We got plenty of battery. We're using massive batteries, so power I'm not too worried about. The real question is, let's come to a rest here. Let's time warp so the sun's visible. So we don't have enough solar panels to keep the boat from running out of power during the sunlight. How about turning? Can we turn? We can turn slowly. Not very fast, but you know, it's a boat. It's a boat, not a plane. So there's a couple ideas I have. I think that the deep point in the ocean is over here. But proof of concept, it works. We could throw another propeller on it if we wanted to get a little bit more speed out of it. You know, a third propeller wouldn't hurt. So grab this guy. Get him centered. And just slide him down. Like so. Now we need a means of deploying our probe, and we need the probe itself. So deploying the probe's not super complicated. We'll use just a basic fuel tank here. Does not need to be very big. We'll rotate it so that it sticks out the side. Embed it slightly in the hole. Not all the way, but slightly in the hole. Add our stage separator if I can, if it'll let me. Okay, that is the wrong end of the stage separator. So let's flip this around. There we go. So that is our deployment mechanism. Probe itself. Let's add another fuel tank to this thing. So it's really got to be two parts, right? It's going to be the command chip and then a battery. There we go. So that's the battery. It weighs 71 kilograms. We'll give this thing some gyros so we can control it. And this will be an empty fuel tank. This will be our air bubble, basically. Bring this in a little bit. Okay. Now, what if we do this? Okay. So that's the heavy section. Make this just a little bit smaller. Paint it white. White and black. Like that. So that's our probe. And then our probe launcher. Detachment force 0. Yep, that's fine. I just want it to drop. And then I'm going to test this real quick. I just want to drop it into the water directly. And see if it floats, sinks, and see which direction it orients itself. So let's grab the command pod. Take control from here. Sweet. So it deploys the probe. The probe is upright, which is what I want. And it sinks, which is what I want. Boom. Perfect. Okay. Undo and exit. Last step is depth sensing, because we need to know when we're over the deep zone, right? So we're going to add a little Visi script to this vehicle. While true, display. It's very simple. All I want it to do is display altitude above seafloor. And we'll do friendly distance. Very simple. We can actually make it conserve some power by having it wait 1 second and then displaying that. Because what that'll do is slow down the number of iterations that the program goes through. So right now 4.5, 4.7, there we go. So now it's giving us depth readings, which is what we want. And as we accelerate, this will change. So now we can see our power consumption is a little higher, but we have enough fuel. And if we need to, we can just stop the engines and let the ship recharge in the sunlight. That's fine. Big thing is I don't want to run aground. We can go to map view. And yeah, we're just going to cruise for a bit. Career. Drew milestone. Deepest dive. I need to get below 14 kilometers. So I'm looking for 14000 or greater up here. Now we're going to have to drive out pretty deep into the ocean, right? We are traveling east towards the sun, so eventually the sunrise will come to us. Just not soon, not immediately. Yeah, we'll let this cook for a little bit and see where we go. So I'm going to mute my mic. You can tune in and watch the ship travel, and if not, that's okay. But I'm probably going to step away for a bit because this is going to take minutes, maybe an hour to get to where we're trying to go. Okay, it looks like we ran over a fairly deep spot. What was the max depth that I had sent something down to before? Deepest dive 1.3. Okay, so we still haven't reached our deepest dive yet. Probably still a little ways out. Probably need to get out into like the open ocean. Because it looks like just from the map that we're kind of on this continental shelf. So if we get out here in the real like middle of the ocean, it's probably where we're going to find our luck. Unfortunately, these waves are making it a little bit more difficult to maintain a good speed. So this may take longer. We'll let it run for a little bit longer. Yeah, the sea state is actually pretty aggressive right now. And the ship's kind of getting tossed around. Not a very big ship. It's more like a personal fishing boat than an actual cargo carrier, so she's having a little bit of trouble keeping up the speed. Yeah, here's what we're gonna do. We're going to end flight. Undo and exit. This is a good first attempt, but I don't think this is productive, and I don't think this is really going anywhere. We can do something a lot faster. So here's what we're gonna do. Save career mode boat. We'll save it for now. We'll come back to this when we've got proper propellers. We can actually get it going faster. One quick thing that might make it work a little bit better is to lower these down, because I think they were getting exposed by the sea state too much. So instead, if we bring them down like this, they might be a little bit more effective, a little lower to the hull. But we'll save this for now. Let's load up our albatross, right? Now, we made this plane, and it's a good plane. It works. But what if we did a water takeoff version? I don't know how well this will work, and it may give me some issues. But we're going to try a water variant of the albatross plane here. The way we're going to do that, use support struts. We may have to make this quite a bit bigger. In fact, thinking about it more now, what if we did something like the PBY Catalina? If you don't know, the PBY Catalina is a maritime patrol plane. It was made in like World War II. Pretty old design, but so effective. So effective that it is still in use today in the civilian market. You can still get your hands on it. What if we did something like that? So let's adjust this a little bit, right? In fact, let's basically rip all this out. All of this out. Yeah, all of it out. Okay. That included. Let's just throw a little command ship on there for now. Move that out of the way. This out of the way. We can basically just get rid of that altogether. Probably the person too for now. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. Okay. Great. Let's make this bigger. For starters. We need to make it float. 2.5, 2.5, 2.5, 2.5. Okay. Stretch this out. Actually, you know what? Scrap that too. All right, we are truly starting from scratch here. We're gonna make a big old plane. Huge plane, some would say. Let's go 2 though. Make it maybe not quite that big. Oh, this is the command disk. Oh, okay, hold on. Let's make that much smaller. Set that as the primary. I was like, why is it not letting me add section? I see now the error in my ways. Okay. Here we go. Kind of like that. Let's start with that. Okay, that's the general shape that I want to try and emulate. Now we need these wing sections. These wing sections are going to be pretty big. They're going to be high mounted. Basically, going to make them as big as I can. Okay, that should do. Move that way over here. Now we bring this up and in. Like that. It actually, the PBY Catalina's wings were actually very highly mounted. Like way up there. Let's make this a good bit longer in the fuselage. And then the way they mounted the wings was with a central like support column. Just gonna use a simple strut for that. Nothing too crazy geometry wise. The column on the PBY was curved. This one's not going to be, just because I don't care enough to make it curved. We'll do something basic like that. Okay, so that's the start. Let's make these nice and big. Now, we're going to need some engine nacelles, right, on the wings. Zero, 0, 90. There we go. We'll size this down here in a second, but I just want to get it on the wing first. Get the general shape correct. Like that. What am I building? I'm building a seaplane. We're going to drop a probe from a seaplane. That's the idea behind the mission that we're doing right now. We'll see how effective it is. I'm not 100% sure how effective it will be yet, but I'm optimistic. What's our max RPMs? 2293. In the air, 2297. 2200 RPM. So let's bring that down to 22. make that a little narrower at the front. Add a section. Make it 1 meter long. Okay, so that'll be the general shape of the nacelles for now. Nah, we won't bother with that. I think that'll be sufficient. Let's see where our center of mass is right now. Very high. Which I figured that'd be the case. So we need to make the fuselage a little wider, a little chunkier. Let's do 2.5. Now here's where the weight comes in. Is we're going to add the batteries for these bad boys. They're not going to be that big. That'd be ridiculous, but they're going to be big. Let's see, center mass, mirror it, tuck it into the fuselage, call it good for now. Throw just a real basic nose cone on there. Don't really care about the shape right now. It's not so much as I want it to work. Once it works, then we can discuss like the geometry and everything. But first, let's make it work. Okay. I don't even know if this will take off. The water might be too tricky. Who knows? We'll find out. So that's our control surfaces in the back. Let's make sure that they're set up right. Yaw, pitch, roll. Okay. Looks good so far. I'm not seeing anything that would prevent it from working. These might touch the water, though. Let's make these slightly smaller in diameter. And pull that back slightly. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Let's see how she floats. So that'll be our first step, right? Is how well does she float? She doesn't. So too heavy. Okay. Now we got to adjust this, right? We got to pull this back. Let's make this way longer. Yep, okay. Okay. There's the back of the battery right there. Still too high, right? That's the challenge we're running into. That is still way too high. How heavy are these? 175 kilograms. These wings are what's killing us. No fuel in the wings. Yep, no fuel in the wings. Okay. That makes it lighter. That pushes the center of mass down a little bit. Is it going to be enough, though? Let's try. This is the trial and error phase, right? We're gonna guess and check a couple of times. We're gonna adjust it around. Okay, that actually already was much closer, right? Now that's a problem, but that's a fixable problem. That's a problem that we can deal with. So it's front heavy, but we can fix front heavy. A couple of things we can do, right? Let's look at our center of mass, center of lift. If we just scoot these all back, right? Wings, everything, scoot it back. Also, we can make the wings slightly smaller, right? Just slightly smaller. And make our control surfaces slightly larger. Let's try it now. How it floats is important. Okay. We need more weight in the tail, just all the way back in the tail. We can do that relatively easily. I was trying not to add dead weight. And I guess we could just add another battery to the plane, right? We could just stick a battery on here. Do like this little number here, mirror it, slide it in like that. How does that impact our weight distribution? I guess the other thing we could do is make the front longer, right? Not that long. Not that long, but a little bit longer, like that. And then the other thing we could do is elevate these nacelles to the top of the wing so that they clear the water a little easier. Okay, let's try that. See how that works. Oh, just whacked my knee on my desk. That was fun. Okay. She's a little low. She sits a little low in the water. She needs to be lighter. Overall lighter. So let's make the batteries smaller and push them farther back. Basically, just put the batteries all the way in the back and make them pretty small. Do that pretty quickly just by doing that. Which that alone should reduce a lot of the weight. You can also, let's go to a 0.25 grid, 25 centimeter grid. Let's just make each of these slightly deeper. Whoop, that messed that up big time. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Oh, shucks. Let's do this. This does not need to be very big. There's no need for this to be big, so let's just make this small. Not there. Don't attach there. Attach somewhere normal, please. Somewhere normal, please. Real quick, let's just check our pilot orientation. Okay, that's correct. Well, let's just do this. Let's just put it in the center of the plane, basically. Doesn't have to, this actually doesn't have to be perfect. Let's just connect it to the fuselage like that. Okay, great. Let's try it now. Want a slight upward angle, which I'm getting that now. Still a little heavy. It's sitting too far in the water, and as more of the hull goes in the water, it gets kind of overloaded. So let's go back to the weight distribution. You know what we can do, actually? There we go. Now I can just move this whole thing with just this one guy. More like that. And then let's pull that down a little bit. And then these guys can go as far back as I can get them. And then you can be much smaller. So the only challenge now with shrinking the battery size is I'm shrinking my flight duration. But let's get it in the air first, and then we can figure out how to make it fly for long periods of time after. That's my thought process here. Okay. She's sitting at about the right spot. 18 meters per second. It's not terrible for speed. Yeah, just no lift. I'm not getting any lift out of this thing. Is it possible? Or is like the drag from water too intense? Is that the issue that we're gonna have? I don't know. Let's try up in the blade count. Let's try upping the RPMs. Extra 200 RPMs. A little bit more torque. Let's try a little bit more power. I'm just trying to see if there's some like critical speed we need to get to. Because it feels like I'm just stuck in the water. You know? That's what it looks like. Maybe I'm coming at it wrong as far as weight distribution goes. Maybe that's not the thing that I need to be doing. Because I put these big batteries in here, and I should probably have some batteries in here, but what if I just ditch these, right? Ditch them entirely. This is all empty fuselage. It should all be buoyant. Right? I've still got the little batteries in the very back, but let's just get rid of the extra weight altogether and see if that gets me high enough out of the water. That looks better. What if... Okay, hold on. Thoughts. Ideas are coming to me. Big ideas are coming to me. Right? I'm creating kind of a moment. An inertial moment around the ship. Where I'm pushing it down. But what if I just angled these up? 5 degrees. Just a slight adjustment here. I wonder how much mileage I can get out of tilting these up just slightly. $26. But no faster. Okay. Thought. Here's another thought. Since my center of mass is all wonky and I don't really trust it to keep me stable, I was gonna have to do this anyway, but now it might serve a dual purpose. We add pontoons, right? We add these kind of outriders. We go 0, negative 180. Get them parallel. There we go. Like that. And then, because I can't think of anything better to do, and of course that didn't work nicely. Let's scrap that. Nope, undo. Link. 0, 0, 90. Okay, we scoot those propellers into the hole. Towards the hole. We sit that one there. We go down ever so slightly. We kick him up at an angle too. All right. Getting silly with it. Let's try it. I don't know. It might work. It might work. This might work. Or it might not. I don't know yet. It seems like it wants to work. No, it does not want to work. Okay. Hold on. Hold on. Let me cook. Maybe the plane needs to be even longer. Right? Hear me out. Center of mass doesn't really change. It really wants to take off. Okay. Okay. I feel like we're close. If it can work, then we're close to it working. Right? That's what I think at this point. If this is possible, then we are close to it being accomplished. I really would love for this to work. I think it's such a fun idea. Hydroplanes. But I don't think it really doesn't want to, though. Let's make it deeper. Go back to a 0.25 grid again. We're just gonna make the whole boat a little deeper. I don't know. I don't know. If this doesn't work, I don't think this works. I think the way they model surface interaction with water is just not quite right. But it really feels like it should work. I mean, we're certainly going faster than our other thing. Okay. Maybe we come back to this as a concept if we can figure out some trick, but I don't think that's going to work. All right, well, that's where I'm going to leave the live stream tonight. We kind of made this kind of hydroplane. It really almost wanted to work. That's the best I can say. Is it really almost wanted to work? The only other thing I could think of is we could just make the wing like ridiculous, right? We could just make it silly long, like that. I mean, something properly done. To where we've just got this ridiculous wingspan. And we say, you know what? Okay, take it. Grab that. Pull it forward a little bit. So now center of lift is right over the center of mass. And we shouldn't need a whole lot of airspeed with such a wingspan. And I don't think it matters because like the water is basically holding us down. Alright. Fun in concept was worth a shot. It's not going to work. Not today. Not without some more thought on the problem. So, thank you everyone who's tuned in to watch. I hope you enjoyed the live stream. It was fun trying to mess around and see if we could get this to work. Unfortunately, it's not going to work. So, we'll have to scrap this concept, come back to it at a later date, I fear. Until then, I hope you all have a great time doing whatever it is you're doing. And I will see you in a future live stream or video. Take care, everyone.